Okay, we can start now. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Honorable speakers, Professor Edi Pratomo, Professor J. Batong Bakal, and Professor Salawati Mat Basir. I'm sorry that I cannot yet open my cam since I'm still on the road because the traffic has caught me in the on the way. My name is Ari Afriansyah. And I'm the chairperson of Indonesian Society of International Lecturers. Thank you so much for coming to our 14th talk that we usually take more important topic and timely that relates to international development and also international relations among the countries that involve about Indonesia. And we are so grateful that the three speakers have willing to take their times in the evening to give us more insights and information to take on the recent developments in the South China Sea that mostly involve on the new policies that taken by Indonesia and the Philippines. We are here, the speakers, Professor Edi Pratomo is well-known scholars and diplomats from Indonesia. Currently, he is the Dean, Faculty of Law, Universitas Pancasila, where previously he was a career diplomat. Uh, he had hold the ambassadorship in a number of important posting, such as at the permanent mission of Indonesia at the UN. And we have also Professor J. Batong Bakal, well-known scholars in the law of the sea that coming from the University of the Philippines. He has authored many articles and books, which among the community, he has also many experiences in communication and collaboration with the community itself. And last but not least, we have Professor Salawati Mat Basir from University of Kebangsaan Malaysia. We are also grateful that she has been experienced in a number of articles and research on the law of this as well. And many, we have the privilege that Professor Salawati will also give her insights from Malaysian perspective. As we all know, ladies and gentlemen, that Indonesia a few days ago, in his visit, our president, Prabowo Subianto, have said or made a joint statement that quite surprisingly to many parties, including the public in Indonesia ourselves. The joint statement saying that we have or at least Indonesia have agreed to have cooperation in the areas of overlapping claims between Indonesia and China. This has created a stir of discussion because we know that in that area of overlapping claims are the only that we have known is the part of the northern of Natuna Sea, North Natuna Sea, which we can also say that is part of the southernmost area of the South China Sea. And we also know that our president also went to the United States and make a kind of a different position in the area, saying that we are still respecting the UNCLOS and we are also respecting or trying to safeguard our sovereignty. And the second one is the development from the Philippines, where the Philippines have issued a new map, reiterating the map that have also the impact to the surroundings, where it has the some of the uh, location on the South China Seas on the west part of the Philippines. So we would like to know what are these development to the international community in general and specifically countries in the region. How this make more implication to the current still the ongoing conflict in the South China Sea. And because of the time and also the condition that Professor J have to attend into another event, I would like to give the opportunity to speak first to Prof. J, and we can afterward for 10 minutes, and then we can continue with more discussion. Professor J, time is yours. You are still muted, Prof.
Thank you, Ari. Thank you to everyone for allowing me this time to speak. I'm sorry that it could not be longer. I'm actually in Tawi-Tawi, which is probably the closest I can get to Indonesia without leaving my country. It's the southernmost island group of the Philippines. Now, let me just clarify with respect to the recent policy moves of the Philippines. It's not that the issue that the Philippines has issued a new map. Okay, that has not yet happened. The map has not yet been issued. What has happened is that we have promulgated two new laws, the Maritime Zone Act and the Archipelagic Sea Lanes Act. Of those two, it is the Maritime Zone Act which will eventually result in the making and issuance of a new map. The Maritime Zone Act basically implements UNCLOS in the Philippines. It echoes the provisions of UNCLOS. It declares and establishes all of the maritime zones to which the Philippines is entitled to under UNCLOS, starting with internal waters, archipelagic waters, territorial sea, EEZ, and continental shelf, including the extended continental shelf. In doing so, the Maritime Zone Act basically reiterates the various rules in UNCLOS for each one of these zones. In law we call it the doctrine of transformation. It basically takes these rules and norms from the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea and transforms them into local legislation, local rules. And that means that we will now be able to implement these rules from the convention directly in the local jurisdiction. This is entirely in keeping with the Law of the Sea Convention. So all of the rights, duties, and obligations of the coastal state and the foreign flag state passing through our waters, all of them are basically repeated there so that it is clear that we are now really expecting other states to abide by their commitments under UNCLOS while we ourselves are also to carry out our duties and obligations in accordance with UNCLOS. The other new legislation is the Archipelagic Sea Lanes Act. This Archipelagic Sea Lanes Act basically implements the provisions of UNCLOS for the designation of archipelagic sea lanes, but it is only at a preparatory stage, shall we say. What the act does is that it paves the way for the designation process to now begin. It describes initially the three sea lane routes that we have suggested or basically that we want to be designated as archipelagic sea lanes and authorizes therefore the executive branch to now begin the process of consultations with the IMO for the formal designation of these sea lanes now at the international level. Similar to the archipelagic sea lanes, similar to the Maritime Zone Act, it also again incorporates the various provisions of UNCLOS, basically takes them and collects them into the single legislation so that we can again establish clearly in domestic law what are the rights and duties of other states that we recognize and what are the duties and obligations that we ourselves are committing to carrying out in accordance with UNCLOS. The the only difference is that in addition to those rules, the Archipelagic Sea Lanes Act also provides guidance to our or to our executive branch as to how to select sea lanes, how to substitute them, and various. We've also basically included there certain directions, such as consultations with the IMO and the International Civil Aviation Organization. And we've also essentially codified all of the rights and obligations, especially of foreign flag vessels and aircraft, what they're expected to do while they're passing through our waters. No? So what we're doing is trying to clarify really these rights and obligations between the coastal state and the foreign state. So well, in both instances also, we have provided for a penal clause so that in case of transgressions, in case of non-compliance with the rules and obligations by a foreign vessel, we would at least have a fallback penal clause, no, that we can apply, that we can use in order to promote enforcement of these provisions, no, and compliance with the law. So that is basically again just setting the stage for full implementation of UNCLOS in Philippine waters. So probably that's the best way to summarize it, and I'm open for any clarificatory questions on that.
Okay. Thank you very much, Prof. J. I heard that it also become as one of the response to the Chinese encroachment to the West Philippine Sea,
Mm.
and this is one of the response to make the more clearer rights and obligation under the Philippines law. What do you think of that?
Well, it is you mean what about my comments on the
Yeah,
Chinese response? Ah, yes.
yeah.
Well, when we were drafting and discussing the law and deliberating it in Congress, and we were among the resource persons that were giving input, we already anticipated what China's response would be. We knew that it would object strongly, but that we just accepted that that is what will happen, because after all, even before we had enacted this law, it was clear to us that China was not going to really abide by its obligations to the Philippines, especially with respect to the West Philippine Sea, the issues, the maritime disputes, its persistent claims. We knew that it will persist anyway, but we did not see that as a reason for us to not implement UNCLOS, because after all, the West Philippine Sea is not the only sea area with which we're concerned with. We're also concerned with the Sulu Sea, our part of the Celebes Sea. We're also concerned with the Pacific seaboard, as well as all of our inter-island waters or archipelagic waters. And we could not basically hold those areas hostage to what is going on in the West Philippine Sea. So let them protest, let them persist, but that is not going to stop us from implementing UNCLOS anyway in our waters as far as we can.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for that one. And now I would like to ask your view as the neighboring country with Indonesia and also one of the claimant state about the development that on the joint statement from Indonesia with China and also the United States, Professor.
Well, like many observers and specialists on the South China Sea issues, it was a real surprise. It came out of the blue practically when we saw that Indonesia indirectly was recognizing the existence of overlapping maritime zones or maritime claims between it and China, because this was a part of a joint statement with China. And this was a surprise because all this time we knew that Indonesia did not consider itself a party to South China Sea disputes, and therefore there could not be any recognition of any kind of overlapping maritime zones. So that was the initial reaction when we read the statement. Now, a few days later, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia issued a clarification that it still did not recognize any Chinese claims in the South China Sea, which seems to now be inconsistent with this a part of the joint statement. So reaction to that was that, well, what does that mean then? Does it mean that when Indonesia and China are talking about overlapping maritime zones, they're talking about overlaps of other countries, meaning countries other than Indonesia? Which would then be a strange thing to say because the statement is supposedly only between China and Indonesia, and they should not be. You would not expect them to have any comment at all about overlapping claims of other states because supposedly those are bilateral matters between China and those other states, and so it would not be Indonesia's place to even touch on them. So that's why it was a bit confusing. And now the latest statement that I read is the Indonesia-US statement, which now speaks of a total adherence to UNCLOS again and recognition of the South China Sea arbitration, which again, to me, um, causes a little bit of concern because there seems to be some discordant threads there across the three different statements. No? So, well, let's put it this way. I am quite concerned as to what is the meaning of this series of statements. Um, Even though I would probably argue that, well, the latest statements supersedes the previous one, and the adherence to UNCLOS and the recognition of South China Sea arbitration would basically neutralize the first joint statement, that overlapping claim statement. Still, it is a cause for concern that it even happened. No? So, and for me, what I was thinking was that regardless, for me, my given our experiences with China and the JMSU or the Joint Marine Science Undertaking, it is clear to me that regardless of what happens, China will use that part of the joint statement to push further Indonesia, especially its claims to traditional fishing rights, not only in the North Natuna Sea, but even deep inside Indonesian archipelagic waters, which we know it has been sort of signaling and even saying in some lesser known statements.
Yeah.
So that's my take on it.
All right. Thank you, Prof. Jay. But I would like to follow up that the Philippines also happens to have a change in its foreign policy before the President Marcos, which kind of more leaning or more friendly to Beijing, for example. So, do you think that this kind of a change of policy it can last for a certain way that have a ramification to our relations between, for example, the neighboring states or even ASEAN, because we know that Indonesia is like a main country in ASEAN. What do you take on that one?
Well, I think that basically the differences between the previous administration and the current administration clearly are with respect to the China and US relations. No? I mean, it's pretty obvious that there has been a swing. And that's partly because despite the effort of the current administration, the President Marcos visited Beijing first, if you recall, in January 2023. Despite that effort, the following month, what happened was the incident with the laser being used against the Philippine Coast Guard. And that started off the whole transparency initiative from then on, because I would say that despite the effort to bring out an olive branch by the Marcos administration, at some point after that meeting, it became clear that it China was not going to change the trajectory of the way it was relating to the Philippines. No? And that's why I think that would explain the turn now back to the United States. No? Now, I know that this has been a cause of concern for many Southeast Asian nations, especially those who are not so comfortable with our alliance relationships and our much stronger ties, basically, with the West. But I think our neighbors also have to understand that we also stand apart and different from the rest of Southeast Asia in the sense that we are the first in line. We're directly the first in line of China's maritime expansion. And before China even reaches Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, they will have to go through us first. And that's why we have such a much more stronger reaction, shall we say, to Chinese actions. The other Southeast Asian states like Laos, Cambodia, etc. I mean, it's very clear that they have very different interests because they do not have the maritime stakes that we have. And their stakes are very different because of their land connections, basically, with China, with the mainland China. So we understand that there are differences in these geopolitical situations, and which results in differences in our policies and the way we also react to China's expansion.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Prof. J. Bapak, Ibu, or ladies and gentlemen, we still have 10 minutes with Professor J. Is there anyone who would like to ask question directly to Prof. J? Of course, that relates to the Philippines. Prof. Eddie, yes, please.
Yes, thank you, Pari, for giving me the floor. Let me first of all congratulate Professor J for your explanation. It was quite clear for us on the firm position that has been taken by the Philippine government. What I would like to refer is your experience, the Philippine experience, when you at the time in 2018 you developed the joint development program between the Philippines and the Chinese, and it was then canceled or postponed in 2022.
Mhm.
We would learn more about this model of joint development that you have already canceled. At the
Yes.
same time, we will try also to develop ourselves on the basis of the practices that have been carried out by the Philippines. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. So, yes, that's true. No, we did try to negotiate joint development, joint exploration and development arrangements with China during that time. I was not directly involved, but from what I gather from talking with people who were part of that, I think the problem was that the Philippines was indeed trying to provide China with different options and proposals while sticking to the constitutional framework that we have. Because after all, even if the executive were to enter into an agreement with China, but if that agreement had flaws constitutionally, no, it would still be struck down later on. So we tried to stick, no, the proposals hewed within the constitutional parameters, and we offered these to China. But unfortunately, China would not budge as well on its position. Basically, they wanted us to violate the Constitution. Its requirements were not going to pass the tests of constitutionality if we continued that. So the talks were quickly, what you call this, deadlocked for quite a while. Despite attempts of the Philippines to provide alternatives, solutions, no, the other side simply was not responding, as far as I know. No? And eventually, this was also superseded, no, by the fact that the previous arrangement that we tried, the Joint Marine Seismic Undertaking, back in 2006, what happened was that there were parties that contested that, even just that arrangement, no, contested it before the Supreme Court, arguing that it is unconstitutional. And eventually, the Supreme Court agreed with them and declared that even that arrangement, where we had the national oil companies jointly exploring for petroleum within the Philippine Exclusive Economic Zone, even that was struck down by the Supreme Court as being unconstitutional because it basically violated one key requirement for all exploration, development, and utilization of natural resources in the Philippines, and that is the supervision and control of the state. No? What it implies is that the any kind of joint arrangement wherein the Philippines does not have the full control and supervision of the activity, even if it is just exploration, that would be unconstitutional. So that creates a new challenge for the crafting of any kind of arrangement for joint exploration and development of resources now within our EEZ and continental shelf.
So the situation now is that the Chinese and the Philippines has not been any more discussions on the joint development that you have already canceled.
Yes, yes. The talks were terminated actually by even at the towards the tail end of the previous administration. If I recall correctly, Secretary Locsin announced that the talks were terminated because they could not reach any kind of an agreement.
Yes, thank you, Prof. J, for the explanation. And
All
back
right.
to you, Pak Ari,
Okay.
please. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Eddie. Professor Jay, thank you so much for your time. Before you leave, can you kindly maybe you have maybe a closing statement or even hoping with the new development for all of us?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. For all of our audience, I'm now putting on the chat links to the legislation that I spoke about, so that you can also see for yourselves their contents. So I hope it's useful. That's the Maritime Zone Act and Archipelagic Sea Lanes Act. These are continuing attempts of the Philippines to try to implement the agreements, no, that we have committed ourselves to implement, no, especially the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. This convention was something, it's a landmark agreement that both the Philippines and Indonesia actually contributed substantially to. No? The entire concept of the archipelagic state, part 4 of the convention, is one very, very big, important, and substantial contribution with both the Philippines, Indonesia, as well as a few other smaller archipelagic countries, archipelagic states. No? It's our contribution to international law. And that's why it's very important for us to ensure that the convention itself as a whole is respected and implemented. And I hope that with this in mind, no, the Philippines and Indonesia being the largest archipelagic states in the world, we are quite clearly the most consequential. We are the ones who are most interested in its provisions because we were the ones that crafted it and also essentially entered into compromises with it. We want it to be fully validated, recognized, and implemented. Our rights as smaller or less developed states, no, these are the reasons that impelled us to push for these provisions because we were trying to pursue our interests. We were trying to ensure that our particular interests in our ocean space, no, as an archipelago, we are of states of land and water. We want to ensure that our ocean spaces are given as much importance. And that's why in these disputes in the South China Sea, as well as in our advocacies in international environmental law, the ocean has always been a very key point for us. And in a way, we are quite sensitive to it. And right now, I can tell you that today, having traveled by boat in the Tawi-Tawi Islands, an archipelago in itself, no, the connection of our people to the sea is really such a substantial, important. Thing. It's really alive, no, and that's why we have these kinds of strong opinions and positions about our maritime resources, our EEZ and continental shelf. And we hope that despite differences in opinions, differences in policy perspectives, as well as foreign policy, the conduct of foreign policy, we hope that our common interests, no, will still be there for us to pursue together, no? Despite the actions of certain actors to basically disregard them and preempt them in favor of their own interests. So I hope that through these kinds of discussions, no, we can really keep open minds and also help each other in really pushing for our interests as archipelagic nations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. J, for your time, and hopefully we can have more discussion in the future. And hopefully, when you visited us again in Indonesia, we can have more live discussion so that we can have so many burning questions about this situation. Thank you very much, Professor J, and have a good night at Tawi Tawi.
Thank you.
Very
Thank
nice
you.
connection. Because of the time, we have to continue with the other speaker. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much,
Thank you.
Prof. J.
Please
See
do
you
have a
again.
good discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Bye
night.
bye. Oke, ladies and gentlemen, Bapak Ibu sekalian, saya mohon izin untuk berbicara dalam bahasa Indonesia. I'm apologize for foreign participants that we are going to continue to speak in Bahasa because in the next presentation, because it's quite relate to Indonesia. So we will hear the presentation from Professor Edi in Bahasa. Bapak Ibu sekalian, setelah kita mendengar dari Profesor J, tanggapan dan juga bagaimana perkembangan di Filipina dan juga pandangan beliau terkait dengan perkembangan yang ada di Indonesia. Nah, saat ini kita akan melanjutkan pandangan dari Profesor Edi Pratomo, yang mana beliau juga di awal-awal juga sudah kemudian memberikan pandangannya, salah satunya di podcast Bapak Akbar Faisal, Prof. Edi, yang sekarang sudah beredar linknya. Dan juga pada saat itu sudah berapa banyak para akademisi yang menyuarakan kegelisahan dan juga pandangan-pandangannya. Salah satunya adalah uh, anggota Dewan Pakar ISIL, yaitu Profesor Hikmahanto Juwana, yang telah mengeluarkan beberapa press release, ya, dan juga kemudian dibahas juga di dalam media nasional. Namun demikian, pemerintah juga kemudian sudah menjelaskan bagaimana posisi pemerintah yang mencoba untuk meyakinkan rakyat Indonesia bahwa sesungguhnya joint statement ini ya itu tidak akan mengganggu hak berdaulat kita dan juga kedaulatan Indonesia. Dengan mengatakan bahwa pernyataan dari para pengamat bisa mungkin keliru, ya, karena memang belum ada penjelasan yang sangat baik begitu. Tentu beberapa undangan sudah kami layangkan kepada bagian dari pemerintah untuk ikut dalam diskusi ini. Namun kami bisa mengerti kalau memang belum bisa menjadi bagian daripada diskusi kita pada malam hari ini. Bapak Presiden juga sudah menyatakan bahwa kita tidak ingin kemudian mendapatkan dengan sesuatu dengan konfrontasi, ya, artinya dengan kerjasama. Tapi dari sisi hukum internasional, kita juga harus kemudian bisa menjelaskan bagaimana kebijakan sebuah negara itu tidak melanggar hukum nasional dan hukum internasional. Dan inilah yang kemudian kami harapkan pencerahan dan juga penjelasan dari ISIL yang akan mungkin disampaikan oleh Profesor Edi Pratomo. Bapak Ibu sekalian, Prof. Edi, time is yours.
Terima kasih Pak Ari atas kesempatan yang sangat baik ini ya untuk bersama-sama kita memahami ya apa yang terjadi dalam 2-3 hari terakhir ini. Pada hari ini kita mendengarkan press statement dari Presiden Prabowo ya tentang Laut Cina Selatan yang disampaikan tadi dan baru saja juga di TV muncul ya. Beliau mengatakan bahwa joint development kerjasama maritim itu dilakukan dengan semua negara dan itu sikap Indonesia yang selalu ingin melakukan kerjasama yang saling menguntungkan ya on the same basis, same level dalam kerangka mengembangkan kerjasama. Tetapi sayangnya memang di dalam statement beliau tadi belum memiliki ketegasan sikap Indonesia yang oleh para pakar dan oleh para narasumber dari Profesor J tadi kan dikatakan bahwa we have changed drastically our position. Indonesia's position itu agak kaget Filipina tadi kan. Mungkin nanti juga dengan Malaysia dan juga negara-negara claimants lainnya gitu. Bahwa kerjasama dengan negara lain itu sesuatu yang memang menjadi basis silaturahmi kita bilaterally maupun secara regional dan internasional. Di satu sisi kita menghargai ya ada press statement yang Pak Ali tadi sampaikan oleh Kemlu tanggal 11 November. It was already very much clear ya bahwa posisi kita tidak berubah, kita masih tetap menolak 9 dash line sejak awal ya, sejak melunya Pak Ali Alatas sampai dengan sekarang ini. Tetapi apa namanya dikatakan di sana bahwa joint statement adalah sesuatu kesepakatan baru yang memang memerlukan perhatian khusus ya. Kami dari bagian hukum internasional dan teman-teman semua yang ada dan hadir di sini tentu memahami ya. Joint statement kan tidak ditandatangani. Joint statement is a political commitment, political pernyataan politis, ya kan, yang belum mengikat sebenarnya kan, belum mengikat karena itu not even an MOU atau dalam bahasa hukumnya mungkin bukan legally binding documents. Namun kalimat di dalam paragraf 9 memang memerlukan klarifikasi lebih jelas dari pemerintah Indonesia yang hingga saat ini belum clear. Di satu pihak kita sikapnya tidak berubah, tetapi we are going to explore kerjasama yang saling menguntungkan ya di wilayah yang overlapping claims dengan claims, ya kan? Jadi ini kan juga menimbulkan pertanyaan teman-teman kita ASEAN, 5 negara ASEAN yang memang memiliki claims. Dan Indonesia sejak dulu tidak pernah menyatakan memiliki klaim di Laut Cina Selatan. Kalau joint development di wilayah Indonesia, monggo silakan. Itu kan satu proyek investasi yang memang sedang digiatkan oleh pemerintah Indonesia dan semua negara. Tetapi istilah overlapping claims ini juga menjadi pertanyaan. Di dalam press briefing di Gedung Putih, di Capitol Hill ya oleh juru bicara Amerika juga kita lihat pada menit ke-21 kita dengarkan bahwa kita tuh rada disindir juga oleh mereka tuh. Bahwa pemerintah Indonesia sebaiknya consult with their legal experts ya kan, to explore more agar supaya kerjasama itu berdasarkan hukum internasional khususnya UNCLOS tahun 82. Kita lihat juga tadi pagi atau tadi siang ada pernyataan dari juru bicaranya Kementerian Luar Negeri Cina yang mengatakan bahwa dia akan bekerja melanjutkan implementasi joint statement ini karena itu memang bagian daripada Cina bagaimana melakukan kerjasama yang saling menguntungkan dengan negara lain termasuk Indonesia. Jadi tanggapan-tanggapan yang sifatnya ambigu begini memang bagi teman-teman dosen dan mahasiswa hukum internasional perlu mencermati ya, how do we implement, bagaimana to explore more, bagaimana melaksanakan ini. Memang ada satu klausula di belakang paragraf 9 yang dikatakan in pursuant with their national respective national legislation and regulations. Tambahkan satu lagi mestinya, and on the basis of international law, especially UNCLOS, harusnya seperti itu kan ya. Tapi ini kan perundingan begini kan memang itu ada juru rundingnya di Indonesia. Ada delegasi Indonesia yang mestinya itu dilakukan di dalam satu format antar kementerian sehingga Indonesia memiliki posisi yang menampung semua kepentingan dari stakeholder di Indonesia. Kami tidak memahami bagaimana persiapan yang terjadi, tetapi saya kemarin di dalam satu kesempatan juga mengatakan bahwa travau preparatoire, persiapan-persiapan perundingan itu biasanya kan ada catatannya. Bagaimana kita bisa keluar dengan statement seperti itu, dan kalau sekarang ini seolah sudah ada damage, that has been done, kita harus ada damage control kan. Prof. Hikmanto dan pakar lainnya juga menyarankan ada keterangan lebih tegas. Kalau saya ingin opsi berikutnya adalah bagaimana menjelaskan pada level tertinggi dari Kementerian Luar Negeri atau siapa yang diberikan kewenangan untuk menjelaskan bahwa we don't change our position, ya, bahwa statement itulah bagian daripada silaturahmi antar negara dan kita harus pandai-pandai menjelaskan tentang apa yang dimaksud dengan overlapping claims. Nah, terminologi ini kan terminologi yang masih bisa dibahas. Ini pertama belum menjadi legal document. Pada saat yang sama nanti akan dieksplor ways and means bagaimana menuju satu kerjasama yang sifatnya bilateral, yang itu nanti harus sesuai dengan Undang-Undang Wilayah Negara pasal 8 ya, Undang-Undang Perjanjian Internasional, dan Presiden dalam membuat perjanjian internasional kan harus dengan persetujuan DPR. bukan dengan pertimbangan, tapi persetujuan DPR, pasal 11 Undang-Undang Dasar 45 misalnya gitu. Jadi banyak pertanyaan ini Pak Ari dan Bapak Ibu sekalian, tentu kita akan tanya, what is the reaction from Malaysian government? Atau dari pakar ya, pakar mungkin lebih tegas dalam menjelaskan ini. Nanti saya ingin mendengar juga dan mungkin dengan Prof. Salawi kita perlu memberikan penjelasan tentang apa maksud kita dengan overlapping claim areas di area yang overlapping. Nah ini agak mengganggu karena we don't have any overlapping claim selama ini. Ini yang kalau kita ya pelajarannya memang seperti itu ya, bahwa ada slight changes foreign policy bebas aktif atau zigzag foreign policy, semua itu adalah kewenangan satu negara. Dan Presiden pasti pada level Pak Prabowo ini orang hebat ya, pasti beliau memiliki pertimbangan yang luar biasa. Mengapa joint statement ini isinya seperti itu. Jadi mudah-mudahan kita memang belum well brief, sehingga kita perlu terus mendengarkan dalam hari-hari ini bagaimana baiknya ke depan, bagaimana kita menyikapi apabila Cina meminta ya sebagaimana disampaikan oleh juru bicaranya untuk menindaklanjuti on the basis of joint statement especially para 9. Gitu, Mas Tari.
Baik, Profesor Edi atas pandangan dan penjelasannya. Saya ingin follow up beberapa hal sebelum nanti saya meminta pandangan dari Prof. Salawati dan juga mungkin apa namanya Bapak Ibu mohon dicatat dulu pertanyaannya ya. Prof. Edi tadi menyatakan bahwa memang kita memahami bahwa joint statement ini non binding, Prof. Tapi ketika ini disampaikan di forum resmi di antara dua kepala negara yang kemudian juga ada tertulisnya, apakah ini kemudian apa namanya tidak menjadi bahan buat Cina untuk terus mengejar komitmen politik Indonesia untuk sebagai follow up, tadi pemerintah Cina juga akan meminta tindak lanjut dari saya seperti apa. Dan seperti tadi Prof. Edi sampaikan, sebetulnya bisa saja kita kemudian tetap dengan menjaga kewenangan kita di landas kontinen dan ZTE dengan berdasarkan hukum nasional kita. Artinya kita bisa melakukan kerjasama itu ya dengan hukum Indonesia yang kemudian ini adalah kemudian masih merupakan kewenangan Indonesia, bukan berarti dalam artian bahwa pengerjaan atau eksplorasi yang dilakukan oleh Indonesia dan Cina itu di wilayah yang overlapping. Nah, tapi yang seperti Profesor sampaikan, ya penyampaian atau penempatan frasa ya areas of overlapping claims inilah yang kemudian ditengarai gitu ya, akan terus kemudian menjadi bahan buat Cina dan juga sebagai bahan sebagai untuk geopolitiknya menunjukkan bahwa Cina sudah berhasil kemudian meyakinkan ya Indonesia bahwa klaim yang dilakukan oleh Cina ini sudah mulai berhasil, katakanlah begitu. Prof. Edi, izin Prof, masih mute Prof.
Ya, saya ingin tanggapi langsung apa yang disampaikan oleh Pak Ari dan juga for the benefit of all of us yang hadir di sini ya. Saya lihat ada spokesperson-nya dari Cina yang mengatakan ya, baru hari ini mengatakan ya, dan ini sudah kelihatan maju nih. Cina sudah langsung menindaklanjuti bagaimana menyikapi statement para 9 daripada joint statement yang sebenarnya bukan legally binding, tapi kalimatnya itu mengandung bindingness. Itu aja persoalannya kan. Saya kutip ya, China has long and rooted pursuing joint development, ya kan? Dan while setting aside disputes. Ini kalimat diplomat nih, harus hati-hati nih ya. We are ready to work with Indonesia ya to extensively explore this possibility and other maritime cooperations. Kalimatnya manis dan bagus ya, tapi kalimat ini harus diterjemahkan dengan legal perspective. Karena pernyataan-pernyataan kita itu kalau sifatnya politik atau joint statement, communique, declaration ya, itu kan banyak sekali kita bikin. Dalam setiap pertemuan internasional, baik level SOM, level summit ya. kalimat-kalimat seperti itu memang political commitment. Tetapi kalau Laut Cina Selatan itu masalahnya kan legal. Masalahnya UNCLOS kan. Bagaimana mengatur batas laut itu adalah ya pasal 15, pasal 74, pasal 83 ya kan. Teritorial, JT, dan alas kontinen. Jadi tidak bisa tiba-tiba kita kemudian berbatasan dengan negara lain. Padahal we have our own. Kita sudah ratified konvensi UNCLOS ya, nomor 17 tahun 85. Udah jelas bahwa kita prinsip-prinsip UNCLOS itu kita memiliki laut teritorial sekian, memiliki JTE di Natuna Utara 200 nautical mile dan tidak bersinggungan. Kan jauh betul itu. Berapa itu? 370-an atau 1000 mile malah dari fitur maritim dari 9 garis putus-putus yang paling selatan. Itu nyenggolnya dengan JTE Indonesia Natuna Utara jauh sekali. So we don't have any overlapping claim. Menjelaskan ini agak sulit. Dan saya lihat Cina one step ahead sudah. Kalimatnya itu sudah naik sedikit. Nah kita we have to respond. Ya kan, bagaimana undang-undang nasional ini mengatur kerjasama perjanjian internasional sebagaimana undang-undang pertambangan wilayah negara yang mengatur bagaimana bagi hasil dan sebagainya. Ketika kita bicara joint development, kita ingat juga tadi yang Filipina akhirnya gagal kan. Waktu
Yeah.
zaman Duterte, Filipina 2018 tuh sepakat. Begitu ganti Marcos Junior, kemudian memiliki pendapat yang berbeda. Meskipun sudah ada PCA tahun 2016, yang meskipun itu nggak mengikat Cina, tapi PCA merupakan pendapat yang memberikan guidelines bagi negara-negara non-partis. Ya kan, karena PCA tugasnya akan memberikan interpretasi terhadap pasal-pasal di UNCLOS. PCA mengatakan bahwa di Laut Cina Selatan itu tidak ada yang namanya pulau sesuai dengan pasal 121 UNCLOS. Natural reform dan sebagainya kan, which can sustain human habitation misalnya. Di Laut Cina Selatan nggak ada, semuanya reklamasi. Jadi mereka itu, fitur-fitur itu nggak memiliki ZTE malahan. Kalau toh itu garis itu ada gitu. Apalagi garis-garisnya Cina ini has no legal basis internationally. Dan itu sudah diekspres oleh Menlu RI berkali-kali bahwa kita menolak garis itu. Nah
Betul,
ini tantangan buat pakar Pak Ari. Kita diskusi sama-sama dan
betul,
this
Prof.
is a good start lah.
Betul. Sebagaimana Prof tadi sampaikan ya, para pemerhati apa namanya yang juga yang berasal dari akademisi murni dan juga praktisi akademisi juga telah banyak menulis tentang hal ini dan bagaimana Indonesia konsisten dalam kemudian menyampaikan posisi Indonesia ya dari tahun 2010 bahkan sampai kemudian mulai memuncak di tahun 2020 hingga saat ini bagaimana Cina kemudian mencoba untuk berada atau presence di bagian selatan dari Laut Cina Selatan atau di bagian utara dari Laut Natuna Utara. Prof. Hedi, terima kasih untuk sementara. Ya. Now I would like to turn to Profesor Salawati, ya, as our dear colleague from the international law community that have also as a representative from the country that impacted both by the development in Indonesia and also in the Philippines. So we would like to ask your views, your thoughts about this development, specifically on around 10 to 15 minutes, and then you can also ask to Prof. Eddie if you think necessary to have a clarification, and then we'll continue with the discussion with the participants. Prof. Salawati.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Ari. Thank you very much, everyone. Malaysia is one of the country that's having a problem so much with China at South China Sea. There is no more secret, and we are fighting, and our style with China is going, I can tell you, a little bit different from other countries, and since 2015. Since last week, we have a problem when Philippines adopt their Maritime Zone Act and Archipelagic Sea Lane Act. only today, after 1 week, the President Marcos Inc. that acts. Then we have from our Deputy Foreign Minister that Malaysia would like to send a protest note, but not yet. This is regarding we are more concerned about the Archipelagic Sea Lanes Act because it crossed the area of Sabah, and to be more specific, this Philippine archipelagic sea lanes is actually try to regulate sea lane at Balabac Strait, which is bordering Sabah's Kudat Bangi and Celebesi Sulu Maritime area at Sabah East Coast. So bear in mind, Philippines never withdraw their claim over Sabah. So we have to be very careful with that, despite we have a very good relationship with Philippines when it's come to the our sovereignty of states. Is something that we cannot compromise. And I do believe Prof. Eddie will be more understand about it. And I also believe that at this moment, Malaysia are doing more on practicing of the tradic maritime diplomacy strategy. Rather than aggressive. We choose to be that way. We have to look the scenario, the world scenario, and we don't want to involve in the competition between US and China. We want to be friends with both. We want to gain economic from both. With the real scenario of world now, it's not good. I have to say that Malaysian government choose not to have any confrontation at South China Sea, and it's very clear from our statement and also our action. But I have to touch a little bit that when I was in Manila last week, I met a few Indonesian scholars, and we discussed about that that President Prabowo at previous, our Prime Minister was there, and after he left, President Prabowo is in Beijing. So whatever you the joint statement, it's okay for me, because it's more on diplomatic way to show a friendship, to show happy to have our diplomatic role to be played more, especially for Indonesia. However, personally, even this is my stand to my government too, please do not have any MOU or MOA with the country that we have a problem and still not have a way to solve the problem. I always want to say this: China is a buying time with a code of conduct. We know it. And this year, Laos going to pass to Malaysia next year. I urge my government to take more seriousness about the code of conduct, because during Indonesia, this is when Ibu Retno was Indonesia was a chairmanship. Indonesia tried to push the COC, even though Indonesia not a claimant. But during Laos chairmanship, is quiet. It's really totally quiet, nothing. So for the claimant states, this is not good, because we want to know what's else. Because as you can see from the US satellite, China growing more bigger at South China Sea, more aggressive, more assertiveness, more grip, and now they are doing a very big I can say island, and they want to have more military base at South China Sea. That is not peace. The signal is clear. China doesn't want peace. China want to grip. So I do understand the stand of Philippines, why they have these two acts. We do understand because of a situation. However, Philippines have to respect the situation of Malaysia too. So if we as a whole, as ASEAN, fail among us, then I can say China is a very successful blowing the wedge diplomatic, and also our ASEAN collaboration, ASEAN togetherness is actually at risk. So at this beginning, this is Dr. Ari, my view on these two situations.
All right, thank you very much. Do you have any response to Prof. Eddie? Prof. Salawati, do you have anything that you would like to ask to Prof. Eddie?
Prof. Eddie, I know that you are in diplomatic lanes and you are in academician. can you tell me, because I'm quite worried, I do hope that Indonesian government will have consult scholars and also veterans diplomats before engage anything serious with China, because I read a few, maybe the writing is not good, better to ask from you. Some claim that Indonesia would like to have the MOU. Some say it's already MOU. So that's not good. That's not good for me. So can you explain? Is it just a joint statement or is it just MOU? And I do believe that do not mention that it's not Natuna, please, because that is a very dangerous place. So is it true? Is it because just now it's just joint statement, but a few writings say MOU. Can you clarify that?
Yeah.
Prof. Hari,
Yes,
boleh?
Prof. Ya, langsung silakan.
Yes, thank you, Prof. Salawi, for very the explanation is quite well noted for me, especially your concern vis-a-vis of the code of conduct and the position of the Indonesian government that is being taken today. Yeah. In our legal term, in our national system, we have an act on international treaties that was adopted in 2000. It was saying that the international treaties is a treaty between states, between the subject of international law, governed by international law, and create rights and obligations on public international law. So considering that terminology and definition, I think that it was on the 9th November in Beijing. It was not signed because it is, in fact, a document called a joint statement. So we make a joint statement. Both parties provide the statements consisting of both concerns on behalf of their national interest. So we are not yet in the process of having a new MOU or an agreements. And we are going to explore more on how to deal with the questions of maritime cooperations on the basis of mutual respects and understanding. And in pursuant with their national mechanism, national regulations, and constitution. So we are still far away to decide or to initiate an agreement because we need also to consult with the parliament, as has been mandated by our constitution under Article 11 of the 1945 Constitution of Indonesia. We need to consult and we need to invite parliaments also to provide more advice when Indonesia initiating an agreement with other countries, especially in relation with the areas of Natuna, which is quite sensitive, because we have already ratified the conventions on the law of the sea, and we have already measured our claims of territorial sea and exclusive economic zone, including continental shelf, on the basis of those articles that I've already mentioned, Article 15, 74, and 98. So we are quite clear in our position that we don't have any overlapping claims, in fact. But as you said just now, very clearly that there has been a diplomatic language, a diplomatic meeting. So how can we then maintain our close collaboration and partnership? Because Indonesia and China has a strategic partnership agreement. So we are trying to have a very beautiful paragraphs. But this time, this paragraph is a bit lack of legal perspective. That is my personal expert view, even though I was a former diplomat. But now I'm studying international law very seriously. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Edi, for your excellent explanation. As for Professor Salawati, your question about the MOU, yes, I can confirm that during the visit, we have signed two MOUs. This is according to our news office Antara. So it is says that we have signed two MOUs. The first one is between our Minister of Energy and Natural Resources with the Minister of Commerce, Wang Weitao, in relations to the cooperation on green minerals. And the second MOU is about the cooperation in mineral resources between our Minister of Energy and Zhang Sanji as a chairperson of National Development and Reform Commission. So it is confirmed on the MOUs. However, we don't know what's the language or the provisions on the MOUs. Because of what we have worried about the statement, as you said, to which area or in what kind of arrangement. So it has to be followed up about on technical things. This is the crucial part because how we arrange this kind of cooperation. Is it based on our licensing regime or is based on the state-to-state cooperation? So this is something that the public need to know. Yeah, I hope that the government will have a more explanation about this one. Yeah. Okay. Now I would like to have a time, to the audience that willing to come to this event that they have so many questions. So, Bapak Ibu, if you have any question, please raise your hand, or you can write on the chat box. And here I already have a question from my colleague, Dr. Kuri. Yeah. She's asking about a few things. First, in bahasa, apakah joint statement yang ditandatangani RI Tiongkok sudah berlaku efektif atau harus ada proses di parlemen untuk bisa efektif? Prof. Edi just mentioned about that one. Yeah, maybe Prof. Edi can explain more about that. And I saw this, Bapak Surya Wiranto, you open the video, so you would like to say something?
Yes, I would like one comment for Pak Profesor.
Silakan, Pak Surya.
Oke, terima kasih, Prof. Selamat malam, Prof. Saya tertarik sekali dengan
Pak Surya.
ya pernyataan-pernyataan para ahli hukum internasional maupun hukum laut internasional sejak tanggal 9 kemarin terkait dengan joint statement ini. Karena menurut saya memang ini hal yang krusial yang harus kita bahas secara detail. Namun dari percakapan itu saya hanya monitor percakapan terkait dengan ZEE-nya saja. Padahal tanggal 12 yang lalu Pak Bahlil, Menteri SDM itu menandatangani 2 MOU terkait dengan sumber daya mineral dan juga terkait dengan blue economy atau green economy. Nah, ini belum dibahas menurut saya karena kalau bicara overlapping claim tersebut ya, lepas ini versinya Cina, wilayah itu tidak hanya di ZTE saja, tidak hanya di kolom air, tapi justru di landas kontinen itu yang lepas dari pengamatan kita, dan itu sumber daya mineralnya luar biasa, termasuk minyak dan gas bumi. Mungkin dalam pembahasan berikutnya ini perlu disampaikan. Kemudian istilah overlapping claim ini juga menarik, Prof. Saya sebagai man of war yang berada di laut, itu kalau kita operasi di Laut Cina Selatan, kita selalu ragu-ragu batas-batas klaim mereka ya, tendas lain, karena memang tidak jelas, not based on international law of the sea. Nah, di publik ini belum banyak tahu bahwa kami di sana, kapal perang RI, kemudian Bakamla dan PSDKP, tiap hari ini kita konflik, ya. Kita saling dorong, saling semprot air, saling mengusir. Nah, ini pemahaman overlapping claim ini mungkin yang belum dipahami, ya, sehingga Saya kurang tahu ya, yang pemerintah sekarang ini mungkin menganggap that's the overlapping claim, sehingga mereka menyatakan pada joint statement itu overlapping claim di daerah itu. Padahal selama ini yang saya tahu juga kita tidak pernah menyatakan itu, karena kita mengklaim betul-betul dari fitur yang ada di utara Natuna misalnya, dengan landas kontinen yang sudah kita sepakati dengan Malaysia, sisi barat timur maupun di sisi utaranya. Demikian juga klaim kita itu kan juga ZTE juga dari fitur-fitur yang ada di kita. We are not a claimant state on the South China Sea itself. Nah, sehingga pemahaman claimant state ini perlu disampaikan dengan jelas kepada publik, sehingga mereka tidak ragu-ragu. Dan juga tadi yang usulan pertama saya, we not only talk about the EEZ, but we must talk concern also with the continental shelf. Terima kasih, Pak.
Baik. Terima kasih banyak Bapak Dr. Surya. Yes, you're correctly right. In the area, in the one that we just talk about, not only on the EZ but also on the continental shelf. I think we can have two questions first. Maybe Prof. Edi or Prof. Salwati may have answer or thoughts on this one. Maybe Prof. Edi first.
Baik, Pak Ari. Apa kabar, Pak Dr. Surya?
Baik, Prof.
Alhamdulillah nih kawan lama nih yang beliau sangat terlibat aktif dalam beberapa diskusi tentang diplomasi maritim dan tentang masalah-masalah hukum laut. Dan beliau ini angkatan laut, jadi beliau paham benar di lapangan ya. Bagaimana menegakkan hukum itu waduh luar biasa tuh. Ada angkatan laut, ada Polair, ada Bakamla ya kan. Jadi apa yang disampaikan Pak Dr. Surya itu sangat benar ya. Kita bicaranya tidak hanya zona ekonomi eksklusif, tapi juga bicara landas kontinen. Landas kontinen kan wilayah di dasar laut, di deep sea area, yang kaya akan oil and gas. Nah, eksplorasi-eksplorasi yang dikatakan Pak Dr. Surya tadi adalah tentang marine environment, kan fishery cooperation, tetapi juga ada oil and gas joint development project nantinya itu. Yang ditandatangani Pak Bahlil pasti mengarah pada landas kontinen ya Pak Dr. Surya ya.
Iya.
Yang itu rezimnya sama dengan rezim ZTE. Bahwa kita memiliki sovereign rights, kita memiliki hak berdaulat, bukan sovereignty, bukan kedaulatan. Itu ada rezimnya dan itu diatur dalam pasal-pasal di UNCLOS. Kalau kita bicara ZTE, saya kira kita paham semua bahwa ZTE itu adalah kolom airnya, kita bicara ikannya, hayati non-hayatinya. Kalau deep sea landas kontinen kita bicara oil and gas. Dan ini yang paling kaya itu ya di Natuna Utara itu. Makanya orang sangat tertarik. Nah permasalahannya kan joint statement itu kan belum perjanjian. Saya menjawab yang pertanyaan pertama Mas Ari. Joint statement is a political declaration. Tidak ada pihak satupun yang menandatangani. So the joint statement has not been signed because this only a paper explaining something about the agreement between the two parties on certain issues. Di sana banyak isusnya. Yang paragraf 9 saja yang bicara tentang joint development. Itu pun akan di follow up dengan pembentukan intergovernmental working group. Ya kan, antara para ekspor. Jadi masih lama perjanjian internasionalnya. Joint statement bukan perjanjian internasional, tapi dia merupakan rujukan di dalam hukum internasional. Tadi saya katakan bahwa kalau perjanjian internasional sesuai dengan konvensi Wina tahun 69, ya, the law of treaties yang disadur ke dalam undang-undang PI, bahwa perjanjian internasional adalah perjanjian antara dua subjek hukum internasional yang diatur oleh hukum internasional yang menimbulkan hak dan kewajiban di hukum publik. Statement tadi belum memberikan legal obligation and duties, tapi memberikan political impetus, memberikan goodwill ya, kayak letter of intent gitu ya. Tapi beda dengan letter of intent yang ditandatangani Presiden Soeharto dulu tahun 98, 97. Itu letter of intent namanya, tapi isinya mengikat kita semua IMF kepada Indonesia, ya kan? Dan itu ditandatangani presiden oleh menteri dengan direktur IMF, Michael Kandemstus waktu itu kan. Nah itu perjanjian meskipun bentuknya adalah even letter of intent LOI. Kalau ini menurut saya dari legal perspektif ya, joint statement ini belum, not yet become an international agreement. This is only a statement. Statement tapi punya basis under Article 9, which is itu ada overlapping claims. Benar seperti Pak Dr. sudah sampaikan tadi bahwa kita tidak pernah ada overlapping claim. Oleh sebab itu kita nggak pernah bicara bilateral dengan Cina tentang overlapping claim. Karena kalau kita bicara berarti mengakui hak Cina di situ. Kita nggak mengakui selama ini. Karena 9 dash lain kita anggap nggak ada. 9 dash lain selain bertentangan dengan hukum internasional, 9 dash lain itu adalah garis yang tidak pakai koordinat. Bagaimana batas tidak ada koordinatnya? Sertifikat tanah aja pakai koordinat kita. Bujur timur, bujur tenggara, bujur utara kan. Semua garis-garis archipelagic baseline Indonesia, semua ada koordinat semua dengan Malaysia kemarin di selatan Sipatan Likitan itu ada garis PTSB ya, Professional Territorial Boundary. Itu pakai koordinat semua. Meskipun adalah median line dari Sebatik dan dari Tawau. Tapi koordinatnya harus ada. Batas darat kita Kalimantan dengan Malaysia di Sabah, itu juga ada koordinatnya. Meskipun patok-patoknya hilang, tapi koordinatnya kan ada. Patoknya, kayunya hilang atau besinya hilang, kita udah ribut. Ya tidak perlu ribut. Patoknya hilang, tapi koordinatnya kan ada. Kan ada perjanjian bilateral 1891 Indonesia dan Belanda. Ada lampiran petanya. Jadi fisik is not quite important. Reklamasi mempengaruhi nggak tuh batas? Enggak mempengaruhi. Reklamasi kan additional coastline. Kita berunding batas laut adalah dari base point di coastline masing-masing negara. Jadi ini pengertian tentang begini, menurut saya Mas Ari dan Pak Dr. Soer, kawan-kawan semua, ini perlu ada ISILL round table discussion lagi di masa yang akan datang.
Ya, Prof.
Sedikit-sedikit lama-lama kita paham kan. Nah, itu gunanya expert tuh. Udah disinggung sama jubirnya Amerika tuh. Aduh, expert legal. Indonesia belajar lah tuh. Indonesia kasih pelajaran lah. Belajar lagi itu masa nggak ngerti apa pengklaim sama ini itu. Waduh. Disindir juga kita itu. Ya, Pak Dr.
Baik.
Sore. Terima kasih, Pak.
Terima kasih, Prof. Dr. Salawati, you have a response? You're still muted. Sorry.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I love the way Dr. Surya bring this case of the situation at sea. You know, one thing that people always forget about what happened, people are talking about what is actually on the table between government to government, in between the ministry in Malaysia, ministry in China, and no, nothing happened, don't worry. That is always big picture to the people. Don't worry, this is G2G, you know, something like that. Again and again, I always been critical. G2G, I don't mind. But how the way that you do the MOU? Are we draft and we give to China and China make a clean copy? Or we sit down face to face and we have a time to negotiate, to say this is wrong, this is right. I'm always concerned and I'm always question my government. How do you do this G2G MOU? Because you're not open to people. Then I love also the way that Dr. Surya said that the tragedy, the incident is every single day. Every single day. I think about our Coastal Guard, our Navy, it's everyday incident. The only thing is we record it for the purpose of government to know. We make it an archive. But the way that we look at it, if you ask me, fully, China is very aggressive toward Malaysia at South China Sea. Despite they say that, we're going to celebrate 50 years friendship with Malaysia. Malaysia, the first country in Southeast Asia giving a hands during all the other country afraid with China because of Tun Razak start everything. For me, that one is only the way that they say through the diplomatic line. But the way they action at South China Sea is very much different. And it's not that to mention to everyone that how we lost our species of fish and also marine product every single year. It's well known that this militia love to come to our sea at the area of Malaysian EEZ zone, Malaysian Economic Exclusive Zone, and they are doing the IUU. So this is the thing that when Philippines with the US money give a very thick report regarding IUU activities of China at South China Sea, they got very angry. So they don't want people to document that. But actually, I think for a country like Indonesia, which is a very, very serious about protecting your fishery industry, and like a Malaysia, that the way like Dr. Eddie said, the Prof. Eddie said, that huge area at the South China Sea and a very huge resources there and very valuable. I don't think so that China will lower their tone and action at South China Sea. I'm very much fine about it. So I always believe that many people just say that we have to be friends, we have to be this. Friend and this is two different things when you are collides with them at the area that we not yet see the potential for settlement. And I'm briefing to this thing because I follow the trend of China towards Malaysia since 2015, almost for 10 years. And there is always every day the aggressiveness because of their action and also because of their claim. And latest, you know that since 2023, they are very active, come to around of our Kasawari gas field. This is something that I always say that a big no. How come you come to the area that we explore our own resources? So that's why I always say to the neighboring country who are not involved with them directly like us, be careful what you go into it. Be careful what you decide with them. And be careful what the means of MOA, what the means of MAU, and how these two very valuable documents being agreed until both of you ink that. Because this will be binding both countries. And I always want to say again, China is very generous in terms of lending money. But they are also very quick to take it something from you. And I think that we can learn from Cambodia, where they lost Sihanoukville. And we also have to learn from Laos, how they lost Saravaniket. So I think my response is that, and I think that I agree that we should have a roundtable serious discussion on the responding latest issue on South China Sea. That will be very good without Western country interfere. This is only ASEAN. Without Western country interfere, this will be very different. Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Professor Salawati. We have two questions in the chat box. We'll read out to you. First from Ilham to Prof. Edi and Prof. Salawati. If this move was indeed a mistake by Indonesian government, what steps must the government to take to fix the situation and protect Indonesia's position going forward? That's the first question. And the second question from Sugendaran, yeah. The question is, based on the current development of Malaysia and Indonesia, which express interest in joining BRICS on behalf and for Indonesia, how can this SCS development affect the intention to join BRICS, where China is the dominant country? Prof. Edi?
Ya, Mas Hari, apa tadi tentang BRICS tadi ya?
Yes, betul, Prof. Ya, dengan mistake from Indonesian government, how to fix this
Oh,
Indonesia?
yang ini, Laut Cina Selatan ya. The damage has been done and we need to, how do we do with the risk management option, ya kan? Bagaimana caranya? I would like to advise to the government, the top one, maybe foreign minister, to provide the clear, comprehensive statement on what is meant by the overlapping claims. And we need to emphasize once again our firm position that we don't recognize the overlapping claims between both countries in the area of northern part of Natuna. It was already the firm position of the government since the very beginning. All governments of Indonesia has been holding this position, but now we are a bit changed a little bit, and there must be an explanation more on this so that our neighbors, our colleagues like Malaysian, the Philippines, and other claimants need to concentrate on how to finalize as soon as possible the code of conduct that we are now initiating with China, ASEAN plus China. So when Laos now is still holding the chairman of the ASEAN, I think Laos will transfer to another country, Malaysia, if possible. We would like to see and looking forward to chairmanship of the ASEAN by Malaysia to be more firm, especially with regard to the COC that has already been canceled and rescheduled many times. And because of the situation, then we sometime now Chinese, as Prof. Salawati said just now, the Chinese is very aggressive and very intensive, and it is trying very hard to push all of us, yeah, to try to accommodate their concerns. Yang kedua tentang BRICS ya, tentang BRICS itu Indonesia dan Malaysia is dua negara yang mungkin memenuhi syarat memang regionally dan economic capacity dan economic development and the role of those two countries in the world ya. But we know that we have also to have friend with Russia, good friend, strategic partnership with Amerika Serikat, ya kan, United States of America, and within the BRIC we have Brazil and India, so we should be very careful. We are interested in joining the group, but I think we need further considerations very carefully because Indonesia is already an active member of the non-aligned movement, and we need to proceed with that. We take the pro and cons and what is the cost and benefit of being a member of the new BRICS. That was my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Prof. Salawati?
Okay, I think Mr. Ilham question already being answered by Prof. Eddie. I'm not going to say about it, but I have my own way of thinking regarding BRICS. Malaysia is always ready and now really willing to into BRICS without problem, without looking that we're having a problem with China in South China Sea. I think Indonesia say still they want to look all the situation. They're not yet into it. They want to do some research. They want to ensure everything. So I love the way the Indonesian take this thing because the South China Sea issue, whether you like it or not, they was always be linked to economic. And China knows this thing. When China chose to change the meaning of strategic study in 2015, they actually go with money. China conquered the world, not only with their BRI only, but with money. So you can see that they introduced BRICS because they really want to be the number one in economy, and they know it by 2027. If they really maintain the movement like today, they will be the number one in economy, not US anymore. So when BRICS come and many countries gain more prosperity, wealthy, and happiness with that, it will really affect the SCS. It will really affect South China Sea because we already have one hands tight in economy, and this is another one hand regarding the South China Sea, which is always regarding our sovereignty of a country. So if you ask me about how it's going to be effect, where is the China dominant? They will be dominant in both. And they will not hesitate to say that, look, I'm helping you in your economy. Will you dare to against me? Because from the perspective that I see, China is doing that. That's why in my comment to Malaysian newspaper, when they asked me this question, I said, Malaysian government or Malaysians should take a time to sit down and think and do some research on this. If we join BRICS, what is the issue with China in South China Sea? So unless we will say, okay, we might accept their persistent presence there, and we want to try to do something else, then you have to face the consequences in the future. But if you are saying that we are going BRICS, but can you against them during the negotiation at the South China Sea? That will be impossible. That's why good to join BRICS, but please ensure that our maintain claimants as a party that dispute at South China Sea will not be affected by BRICS. But sorry to say, it's very hard to do, because when it's come to the money and sovereignty, money always will prevail. This is my personal view. From my perspective, it's very hard. So to answer this question, China will be dominant in both.
All right. Thank you very much, Prof. Salawati. Before I go on to the first question, the next question, I would like to take Professor Salawati and Prof. Eddie, and also the participants, that as we have discussed, the point is, as President Prabowo mentioned, that we would like to have a cooperation. We don't want to have any confrontation. Yeah, because what sees in the conflict in the South China Sea, it has been always been a confrontation between China and the countries in surrounding. But in here, we have to deal as well with the legalities and also political ramifications. So what do you think, and what do you have in mind? Yeah, for at least not only for Indonesia, but also maybe in the future, Malaysian government or administration was approached by China, and look, why don't we have again cooperation? And then suddenly maybe you have a different opinion, your government have a different opinion on that one. So how we can, at least how can we consolidate, or can we compromise, or we cannot? We just say it's a big no for cooperation, and whatsoever we want to clear first, and then we can cooperate. Yeah. So that's my question to both of you. And next question from Hanafi is for Professor Salawati. Would and how it be different on handling South China Sea issues once Malaysia be the chairman or chair state on the ASEAN in 2025, taking into the theme for ASEAN 2025 is inclusivity and sustainability. Thank you. Maybe Prof. Eddie first.
Yes, thank you very much, Mas Ari. What was the questions? How do we deal with the statement by both parties, Chinese and Indonesia? How to proceed with the statement,
Yes.
the some of the statements.
Yes.
Jadi masalahnya ya, supaya teman-teman adik-adik Malaysia juga memahami ya, teman-teman yang wilayahnya di hukum internasional. Kalau statementnya seperti ini, itu mulainya bagaimana caranya? Bagaimana merektifai situasi ini ya? Kalau menurut saya begini, Indonesia sekarang ini juga sedang melakukan perundingan dan bahkan sudah selesai dengan Vietnam ya. Yang pertama, we have already a treaty, Indonesia and Vietnam. At that time was on continental shelf. We have already ratified the treaty, and now we are in the process of having another ratification for the exclusive economic zone. It is very important that Indonesia should do it as soon as possible, just to show to the public, nationally and internationally, that Indonesia is having the same position. Yeah, doesn't relate with the any statement, but Indonesia as a peace-loving country, I think we need more cooperations with other partners, bilaterally and regionally, and even at the multilateral level, on the basis of our national interests. That is always a diplomatic message that always taken by the government of Indonesia through many different channels of communications. The issue now is on the South China Sea, that we need to once again convey our straightforward message that Indonesia has no legal obligation to recognize implicitly or tacitly on the question of that we have overlapping claim with China. So we need to do talk again in a very diplomatic manner so that both parties we will have the same situation, the same perceptions. Because when we are talking about everything bilaterally under the diplomatic language, sometimes we need to further clarify and interpret it. We need also to differentiate between the language of diplomacy and the legal terminology in the diplomatic process. So this is one expensive experience for Indonesia, I think. And we got many inputs from Malaysian, from colleague from the Philippines, dan juga dari Bapak Ibu sekalian, bahwa ini sesuatu yang pelajaran sangat berharga, karena kita sudah clear posisinya, tiba-tiba seperti itu, dan we got another press release dari Kemlu menyatakan bahwa Kemlu tidak berubah. Ini luar biasa, bagus. Tetapi tunjukkan bahwa Anda tidak berubah, kan gitu. That was my response, Pak Ari.
Thank you very much for clear and succinct answer, Prof. Edi. Prof. Salawati.
Okay, I answer regarding the Malaysia Chairmanship 2025 and how we going to take care of it. Okay, actually, I love to quote from Malaysian Ministers of Defense 2 days ago when Malaysia aims actually to finalize China Sea Code of Conduct with ASEAN in 2025. Sorry to say, I'm quite pessimistic about it because it's not easy to bring China to sit down and to finalize something that they're really buying time. But I think it's a good it's a good idea, and because he made this statement when courtesy call by the China ambassadors to Malaysia when visit him at the ministry. So I think okay, we have to look into it. Well, Malaysia have a very challenging time actually as a chairman 2035 because of the world scenario and also different perspective of ASEAN from many issues. And also for me, okay, you can have this kind of conduct, you want to finalize it, but it should it should take into account also the country which is not a claimant, because it's only involved Vietnam, Malaysia, Philippines, and Brunei. So another 6 countries in ASEAN are not the members, are not the claimants. Indonesia, they have only a little conflict at the conflict at not Natuna, but not the claimant. So this is need to be handled very careful, because ASEAN need more than conflict, and ASEAN need to handle the situation of world economic better than previous and the present time. So Malaysia have a very challenging time chair ASEAN this time. So I think good if Malaysia can do this, but I know it's not easy. If Malaysia can do this and finalize code of conduct, that would be very great, really great. But if Malaysia can do half of it, it's good also, because politically we know it's not easy to talk to China. And it's easy not to bring them like, ASEAN to ASEAN. Yes, we know the culture, we know the practice, the very ASEAN style. But China is not like that. They are in our water, in our soil. They are keep buying our land, and we accept it as part of economy. But we forgot that another 20 years or 30 years, they can claim that is part of their country. So I'm more careful on international law perspective of state sovereignty and also jurisdiction. So I do believe that economic perspective, yes, very important, but if we don't see it in the future, they can claim. Because I know in Malaysia, there are so many land and property that buy by them. And I also know that in Singapore, in Thailand, and I do believe in Indonesia also same. But we have to be very careful of it. We must be careful, thin barrier between state sovereignty and economic perspective. So that's my answer, because this is what our government official say about it.
Yes. Thank you so much, Professor Salawati. It's a bit late now. I know as hour ahead of us, Professor Salawati, and I guess we still have so many burning questions, so many thoughts about these matters. But I still believe that, as Prophet Edi have suggested, that we still need to keep this discussion going, and especially to have more information that have been out to the public, and how we can more on dissemination of information. And this is something that we would like, as we have discussed, that the government need to be more transparent in dealing or in making any agreements with other countries, because this has created a number of concern. And I do still believe that for a few days ahead, I think more and more voices, both in written or unwritten, will be voiced from the public. As for the closing statement, please kindly Prof. Edi, and then follow up by Prof. Salawati. Prof. Edi.
Thank you, Pak Ari. My final explanation is that we would like to advise colleague Prof. Salawati. We are looking forward to having a very smart leadership and guidance from Malaysia to chair the ASEAN Next 2025, how to promote and explore more to finalize, even though it would be difficult, especially to finalize the code of conduct with ASEAN and China. But now the time has come that we need to finalize this code of conduct in order for those claimants and also Chinese to comply with the international law practices, so that we may avoid unnecessary complications and ramification further, especially in the areas of South China Sea. And thank you very much for this opportunity, Pak Ari. ISIL is always become a leading sector in having very current discussion. We are happy to be invited this and looking forward to another meeting again. Thank you once again. Good evening. Terima kasih banyak, Bapak Ibu sekalian.
Prof. Salawati.
Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you to all my friends, many of my friends inside this online. I know them already, so thank you very much. My Indonesian friend is always very kind and always want to listen. I always believe and pray that Malaysia, Indonesia, even Philippines, Prof. J is not here, but can work together to ensure our sovereignty, our jurisdiction, and our country always is prosperous in a good manners, and also always being blessed by God. Whatever it is, we have to work together. Keep ASEAN centrality, be together for 2025.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. Salawati. And again, terima kasih banyak Bapak Ibu atas diskusinya pada malam hari ini. Saya yakin semua mendapatkan manfaat, dan terutama mudah-mudahan ada yang bisa menyampaikan kepada pemerintah, pengambil keputusan, so that our government will be have a more strategic decision in the near future. So despite that, we have voiced our concern. Terima kasih banyak, sehat selalu, sampai ketemu di kesempatan berikutnya. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Prof. Edi, Prof. Salawati, Bapak sekalian. Bye-bye.
Terima kasih. Selamat malam.
Terima kasih semuanya. Terima kasih.